All right, thanks, Rick. And of course, there are many possible findings here. And we are just going to show you a few of them that we thought were of particular significance. So I'm going to start with the first two. Finding number one, this is about small lot, single family. So if you want to think about, say, a starter home, it's going to be very difficult to build an affordable starter home on an acre or more in the vast majority of the state. Maybe, way up north where land is cheap, but certainly in the southern half of the state, that's going to be difficult to do. So we wanted to see where this is available. And part of the limitation here is the availability of utilities. But under state DES guidelines, you can build under certain soils, you can build a well and septic on a lot as little as 0.7 of an acre. All right, so we find here that 16% of the state's buildable land area is available for small lots, single family, defined as lots less than an acre with less than 200 feet of road frontage. And you see that actually the places where a lot of this land area lies are rural areas to the northwest. So small lot, single family homes are generally not widely available in the southern southeastern third of the state, but you do see Manchester, Nashua, I think that's Dover and Somersworth and Rochester tend to allow that over most of their land area, and I think Londonderry. Finding number two, a small lot two family. So here you see just scrolling back the differences between these, it's less, right? So less land area is available for small lot two family, and here we've defined small lot slightly differently. So again, it's lot under an acre, or if a maximum density is set more than 2 units per acre and less than 200 feet of road frontage. And so we find that 11% of the state's buildable land area is available for small lot two family. And again, the bulk of that acreage does seem to be in the more rural areas. And we find also there are 70 jurisdictions that don't allow two family by right anywhere within the jurisdiction. All right, and with that, I'll hand it over to Noah Hodges.
Thank you, Jason. So for finding number three, many of New Hampshire's communities, including those close to job markets, require large lots for multifamily housing, thereby driving up the cost of these homes and making them unaffordable to residents. So in this finding, in this map, we're particularly looking at 5+ family multifamily. That was on purpose, as that is how multifamily is defined in the state's workforce housing law. And we're also defining small lot a little bit differently than the prior slides. Here we're looking at defining small lots as under 2.5 acres with less than 300 feet of frontage and with greater than 2 units per acre minimum density. And so what we find here is that, again, the same color shading of the orange is where small lot multifamily is allowed. The yellow is allowed with restrictions, so where it would be allowed only in where you might have to have a certain percentage have required affordable housing, workforce housing, or be age restricted. So what we find in grand total is that 21% of the state there's buildable allows small lot multifamily. Comparing that to the finding number 1 and 2, that's actually a larger percentage of buildable area. As Ben will detail in some later slides, we posit that may actually be as a result of the workforce housing law requiring communities to provide reasonable and realistic opportunities for workforce housing. As I said, we defining, again, workforce housing law defining multifamily as 5+ family units. Finding number 4, we did a deeper dive on Manchester and the 7 surrounding communities. And we did a actual parcel analysis of the region. And we found that once you include existing development in land use restrictions, once those are all taken into account, the percentage of by right buildable small lots shrinks from 21% down to 7.8%. So here are the gray areas that are, say, non-developable. So those are including, again, whereas the prior slide said non-buildable, we're now here referring to non-buildable, non-developable. Those are including both the permanently protected areas and the water and wetlands areas, as well as all the areas that are already built out, have development or built out per their current zoning. And so you see that Manchester, for example, is significantly built out, except for the couple of smidgen of orange areas where there may still be some opportunities to allow single family development in the purple areas where it'd be outright prohibited. Other communities surrounding Manchester, with a few exceptions, are largely based on their current zoning, do not allow small lot single family, again, with less than an acre of lot size and less than 200 feet of frontage. And so we, you could do the same exercise for the entire state. I think that we, in kind of later phases of this project, we probably will do that, where you underlay the parcels and actual building footprint data. And we probably find similar results where the buildable, I would expect we'd see the buildable area percentage shrink once you account for actual development. So finding number 5, we're specifically looking at ADUs. So under New Hampshire law, communities are required to allow attached ADUs, but the approval process is often time consuming and expensive. And in some communities, the requirements, as this map shows, the requirements for additional parking actually limits ADU development. So here we're seeing in this map, in orange, 42% of states or buildable area, ADUs are allowed by right and with less than 2 parking spaces. In the other areas, so in the yellow areas, which is a significant, I don't have the exact percentage, but obviously a significant amount of the land area in the state, are requiring 2 spaces and or a public hearing with less than 3 spaces. So the public hearing could be required through a special exception or a conditional use permit, which the statute allows, and at least 2 parking spaces up to, or just 2, anywhere from 2 up to less than 3. And then the purple or, the magenta areas are actually requiring 3 to 4 parking spaces for a single ADU, which, thinking about a single ADU being the statute having the 700-foot requirement, that these are small living units intended for 1, 2 people. The fact that there's a handful of communities that are requiring 3 to 4 spaces, I think that speaks for itself. And then finally, there's the brown areas are where they're prohibited, and again, the gray areas are the non-buildable, non-developable land. Now I'm going to turn it over to to Sarah to talk about finding number 6.
So much like ADUs, New Hampshire law also requires communities to allow for manufactured homes in residential areas. And we looked at this specifically because manufactured homes are one of the few affordable, naturally occurring home ownership options in the state of New Hampshire. And I think that's incredibly important because a lot of times when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about rental. And the ability to have home ownership is the ability to build wealth and to fully contribute back into the economy. So when we looked at manufactured housing, the area in orange shows the same standard as before, less than 1 acre and 200 feet of frontage, where manufactured housing is allowed on a small lot and where it would be allowed in a park on smaller lots. And it's less than 10% of the land in the state of New Hampshire. The area in yellow shows you small lots only, where manufactured housing parks aren't allowed. And the area in brown shows parks only, but most of these would be 2 acres or more per unit. So the actual viability of building a manufactured housing park decreases with the larger lot size. And again, the purple, the vast majority of the map shows this as prohibited housing for an affordable housing type.